Another calm week in the world of professional wrestling. I mean, if you look what's been going on over the last few days, it's been quite eventful. And I can tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be discussing things in detail. Hashtag WeWantCody or hashtag WeWantRocky. We can give our opinion through this, and we want you to have a forum as well where you can share your opinion, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on delay as well. Put the hashtag WeWantCody or WeWantRocky, or we want both, or we want something different. Let me know in the comments below, but please respect other people's opinions because no one's wrong in this situation, but of course it has caused a bit of uproar. So just before we do go into the details, I just want to quickly welcome NXSteve to the show. NXSteve, are you looking forward to discussing things WrestleMania 40? Everything's taking a bit of a sideward turn, it feels, in the last week or so.
Do you know what? I'm glad that we didn't do this like the end of last week, and like we've given a chance for more stuff to kind of come out, and then we haven't like jumped to the conclusion, which I don't mean everyone's done it, but I think a lot of people are like, they're really like, do you know what I mean? They're just coming at the gates firing, and it's like, dude, just give it a chance, man. And it's like, yeah, it's good that we've given it like the weekend and chance to breathe, but yeah, it's been just a mad week for wrestling.
It's been absolutely crazy, and it doesn't get any lighter today as well, because we've taken this show and we'll talk about Cody, we'll talk about The Rock, but also today it looks like now we could have a landing point for Mercedes Mone going to AEW, to All Elite Wrestling. Just for those that aren't aware of that news, the TD Garden's been announced for a show, which of course is in Boston on March the 13th, which of course, believe it or not, is where Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Mone, is from. So putting two and two together, we could get 5, but that could be a suggestion there. And Scott D'Amore from TNA, the president, has been fired. It's come out in recent times. And according to PEW Insider, there was a discussion with talent across a Zoom meeting, and a lot of talent were upset because it was explained to them that Scott D'Amore had actually walked away and stepped down from the position. That's not true. He's been fired. Someone else has replaced him in that position, which has upset talent as well. That's according to PW Insider. So that stuff we'll talk about later in the episode. But right now, we are focusing on WrestleMania 40. We want Cody or we want The Rock. And let's be fair, the comments don't waste a lot of time. Marcel in house, we want Cody. Pierre is the same, wanting Cody as well. Newman Co in the house, saying hello. Everyone seems like the past few days have been crazy. All in the 7th day of February, literally the 7th day of February, and it has been a crazy one to say the least. To speak come from On the Mark Wrestling Podcast in house as well as 2 of the goats, Steve and NXSteve. What's good, fellas? We are doing well, and I hope you're doing well as well. And of course, 2 sweet goes your way as well. Yeah, I mean, to sort of try and summarize this nice and quickly. Let's try and do our best because a lot's happened. Let's see if we can summarize it in a couple of minutes. So basically, the Royal Rumble was happening. Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble. He made the declaration almost there and then that, Roman, you're the guy I'm coming from. But he was expecting to get Punk versus Seth Rollins. Of course, Punk picked up an injury towards the end of that Royal Rumble. He's ruled out for the next 6 months. So that match is off the table. Reference of table may be mentioned a few times here. We get to SmackDown, obviously. Or we go to Raw, should we say? And Seth makes the almost the plea, come for my championship, not for Roman's. We know what you're going to do. Cody is advertised for SmackDown, goes to SmackDown, says he would think about Seth's offer, but you know he's going to SmackDown, it feels, to say, I'm coming for you, Roman Reigns. It'd only been half an hour earlier when Bayley had made her choice for Io Sky at WrestleMania 40. So it felt like it was a decision-making show. However, Cody said he'd been talking to a lot of people about advice. He'd been talking to friends, family, ex-legends as well. And he said that he spoke to one of them, and he said that actually he wants to get that championship. That's the one he wants. However, WrestleMania's not going to be a place he's going to do it. He said instead, someone knows him very well, pretty much implied that this person would fill his spot. Of course, that's where we've got the return of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which, of course, according to this time last week, was not in the plans at all for WrestleMania. Of course, he signed with WWE with the TKO branding, of course, earlier, towards the end of last month now. Obviously, we're in February now. But there are rumors that are suggesting, with different sources that you hear, that plans have changed from, that middle of that week, that Rock would come in and say, no, I'm the one that's going to take on Roman Reigns, not Cody Rhodes. There was some suggesting that this was a plan from the Royal Rumble because of the fact there were t-shirts there, Rock's head of the table t-shirt, which were pretty much put as ideas out that were going to be put out to the public to sell. Also, some say it's been as early as January the 3rd when The Rock made this deal with TKO that this was going to be the situation. One can't help but think The Rock has been appearing quite a lot recently. He always said on Pat McAfee's podcast, I'm open for a WrestleMania 40 if you want to do it. He made the return in, I believe it was Denver, Colorado in September last year. He appeared on day one. He dropped the first tease there. We can't say it's not sort of been almost coming in a way, but I think where a lot of people wanted to see Cody Rhodes in that position, we've followed the Rhodes story for 2 years now of, not finishing the story. It's now the caption for WWE's 2K24 video game as well. Everyone wants to see Cody finish that story, and it gets to a situation where Cody actually wins the Royal Rumble, and he effectively makes the choice, and then 6 days later he's kind of says on the microphone, I've been talked out of it and I'm not going to do it here. I'll do it on another occasion. Doesn't really make sense because there's not a bigger show to do it than WrestleMania. Cue the weekend. This is where we leave WWE out of it for the minute. Twitter, or X, goes into meltdown. That's pretty much what's happened. If you went there, it was a dumpster fire of a place over the weekend, to put it quite nicely. Glad I took the weekend off. I'm not going to lie. I came back on Monday, saw just pretty much the most popular ones that was there. Saw the people's takes. Well, there we go. We'll leave that there. We get to Monday Night Raw. We think, goodness, we're going to get some answers. This would be nice because Cody Rhodes is on his show. There's no Rock. There's no Roman. We'll see what's going to be said. We get Cody and Seth together one more time in the ring. That looked like it was getting quite interesting until one Mr. Drew McIntyre decided to get involved. And, well, let's be fair. He told Cody that he should finish the story. Fans kind of cheered that. They also actually cheered the idea that Drew wanted his championship match against Seth. Pretty much, Seth, people don't want you to have your title match with Cody Rhodes. And there was Rocky Sex chants in the crowd on Monday Night Raw. It felt like, well, Michael Cole said 1996 all over again. I think it was early 97 myself. But hey, I'm not going to be that much of a mark at this particular moment. Hey, we move on to it anyway. And obviously, those chants continue throughout the show as well. We want Cody. Cody effectively is more over than ever, if you want. If you look at the merchandise this first week of February, I think he's 6 of the top 10 selling T-shirts in WWE shop. So he's doing pretty darn well for himself as well with how this week is going as well. We look then to NXT. Obviously, there's still the Rocky stuff going on as well. One thing we should sadly mention, we mentioned the dumpster fire that is Twitter and X. Unfortunately, Ava, the Rock's daughter, actually sadly received death threats. I mean, how stupid are some people in the community? I think that's pretty much how we have to leave that because those people are genuinely idiots. I'm thankful that a lot of people that watch this show are not in that category. So thank you for you people for being very, very good. But for the people that are, and if they happen to stumble across this video, do better. Simple as that. Do better. Ava has come away from X for the time being. You can't blame her. This stuff is nothing to do with her. We move on then to this Thursday, which we know we have a press conference. Las Vegas, Nevada is going to be on the Peacock for people that are watching in the States, WWE Network for us while we still have it. And of course, from that point, we are expecting The Rock versus Roman Reigns to be announced for WrestleMania. Pat McAfee's even teased a big announcement for this place. However, we know that the likes of Seth freaking Rollins, we know Cody Rhodes are going to be there, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair. It should be a fun old time, to say the very least. But a couple of other speculation stations have come out. Some have suggested that this is all a work to get Cody Rhodes more over, pretty much like the Daniel Bryan push of WrestleMania 30. I believe that was Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer. However, Fightful Selector said that that is not really the case. Cody was not fully aware of a lot of this information. Apparently, Cody was made aware of it late in the day on Friday and seemed quite somber when he'd come back after introducing The Rock on SmackDown. To be fair, his face didn't look the most happy, to put it pretty. I said to try and sum up quickly. I don't know how quick it's really been, but hey, I've done my best to sum it up as well as I can there for everybody. So that's pretty much the state of play as where we are now. We are effectively one day before that press conference. Like you said, we've had time to breathe. We've had time to see how it's been. NXSteve, I'd like you to speak and say how you felt with everything, to where it's been, to where we are, maybe to where it's going.
Put it this way. This is either going to be the most genius, the most brilliant piece of storytelling or booking from someone, Triple H, whoever, for them to do this, or it's going to be the dumbest piece of booking you've ever seen in your life. And we've seen some bad booking in like even all throughout wrestling. There's been a lot of bad booking. But when this first happened, I initially sat there and thought, just give it time. Just let it breathe. Let the story evolve. I mean, it was. I found it hilarious that at like must have been 8:30 Friday night, I text you and basically booked out the whole of the Mania run. Well, everything from Mania till Mania And basically, I texted you and said, look, Punk's injury could be a blessing in disguise. And I booked it out from Mania, from, like I said, from wherever till next year. And the fact that the first thing I put out was Cody, Rock challenges Roman, and not 4 hours later, because obviously for the UK time, obviously SmackDown's on at 1 a.m, we get The Rock confronting Roman Reigns and going face to face. And I'm like, oh my God, have I just seriously cracked the code here? Have I somehow had a masterstroke in WWE booking? And everyone just seemed to just absolutely poop all over it. And I'm like, dude, this could be the greatest storytelling ever. Like, for me, I look at it as if it's a case of they're booking Cody like they're booking Dusty. And Dusty obviously never won the title. And it's almost like a cliche kind of story where it's kind of like, will Cody ever win the title? And I am thoroughly thrilled by that, because the idea of him being like exactly like his old man and getting so close, but just never actually getting his hands on the title and winning it, I just think is just a great story to tell. Because what do they do when they talk about Cody? They talk about Dusty, and they talk about the fact that he didn't win the world title. And I was like, this is going to be brilliant. I mean, where's my phone a second so I can find my booking? And I was like, I'm all for this, because I said, what did I say? Let me find the actual story I booked to you, because obviously not a lot of people know this, or if they don't follow me on Twitter, which most of you probably don't, because I don't really put a lot of stuff out there. But I sat there and put that Rock was going to challenge Roman to Mania. Cody was going to face Seth. I then put that Cody was going to lose to Seth, because obviously Cody has faced Seth 3 times before, and Cody's won every single time. Having Seth beat Cody, Seth then gets his win back for all his previous attempts. And then it really builds Cody as this will he or won't he kind of story. Like, will he ever actually do it? I then booked it that Priest was going to cash in, whether it be at Mania or at the Raw after, because obviously Seth's whole thing for months has been his injuries, Nakamura, like he was going to destroy him. That's what everyone's been doing. So it makes sense for Priest to then cash in, take that title off of him. And then between Mania and Mania, that world title will swap hands between Gunther, Seth, Priest, maybe one other person, a Sami Zayn, for example. Who knows? But then it eventually gets back round to Cody. Gets back round to Seth. And we get to Rumble next year, and we get like the booking that we'd never had this discussion before, but I turned around and sat there for, imagine you have Cody, he's one chance to face Roman at Mania. He has to go the distance in the Rumble. He comes out at number 1. He gets through 28 other superstars. He's the last guy in the ring, and the 30th entrant hasn't come out yet. And he's on his knees in the middle of the ring, counting down. That buzzer hits 0. And all of a sudden you hear that scratch. Punk's music plays. He comes out, wins the Rumble. Cody's absolute, like, his future is just ruined. He needed this win to go on and face it. And then the idea was that he goes on to Mania and he says to Roman, it's all or nothing. I'm putting my career on the line. If I can't beat you and win this title, I'm done with wrestling forever. Now, at this point, you've got the biggest underdog with a will he or won't he, because his old man never won the title. Will he ever win the title? He's putting his career on the line. Roman, who obviously retains at Mania over Rock, then goes on to beat Bob Backlund and Hogan's records for a streak. And the only one he wasn't beaten is Bruno's. And it's kind of like, for me, I had just built this fantasy booking in my head that I'm okay with Cody going another year. I don't actually mind it. Let's be honest. They had him lose last year. If they'd really wanted to put in that title on him, they would have done it last year. I think this could be the greatest story, bigger than anything they've ever done. But I think people are just absolutely just pooing on it too quickly. Like, give the story a chance. Like, we'll all know by Mania whether it was the right decision or not. But like I said, from Friday when it happened, and then the wrestling community just goes into an absolute pit fire of just like, everyone hates The Rock. Everyone hates Cody. Now they were referring it to obviously Daniel Bryan. I mean, Batista came back and he won the Rumble, and he went on to he was supposed to face Orton for the world title at Mania, and it was kind of like I know I'm not a big fan of cliche, like running the same sort of story that they've done before. But at this point, if you see I was talking to you before we started, if you see the clip of Cody after Raw went off the air from Monday night, he is such the biggest star in wrestling at the minute. Like, this guy is just destined to win this world title, whether it be at Mania this year or Mania next year. But when he does do it, I can already feel the electricity, the goosebumps, the sheer joy, the excitement, the tears that everyone will have that he's finally done it. And this is like, it's always been about that building to, like, finish the story kind of thing. Dude, man, let the story play out. Because I think everyone's just impatient, man. They got that Netflix syndrome where, dude, they drop a series, they want it all in one go. They want it here and now, and they want to watch it from start to end straight away. And it's like, no, man, give it time to breathe. I've rambled, man, but man, I'm actually okay with what's going on at the minute. I'm waiting for the finished product before I make my full assessment on whether this is a bad booking decision or whatever. But the fact that they said on Raw on Monday that it's been a trending subject for 3 days straight, my God, the marketing and the business and the traffic that WWE have generated for themselves by doing one little thing is the greatest business move they've probably ever done. Because, all right, it's got people booing on The Rock, but, dude, it's just brought eyes to the business. And like I said, if it's trending for 3 days straight on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, just an insane move, man. Like I said when I started this off, it's either going to be the greatest bit of booking or the dumbest bit of booking you're ever going to see.
And it's what we have to wait to find out at this particular moment. I've got to say, I really enjoyed a lot of the fantasy booking you shared there, just to relive it once again there, because there was some fun steps along the way there. Like you say there, the idea of particularly, the Royal Rumble next year not working out. You've wrapped CM Punk in cotton wool to that point as well to make the return to get his match at WrestleMania at that point. Cody, then what does he do? Probably to go for Elimination Chamber to get to that chance of Roman one more time. But the thing is with some of the stuff you said there, and this is why I think it's good, like you said, we've given it time to breathe. And it's good that I think hopefully fans now try and let the story breathe a little bit, because like you said, Cody Rhodes has come out in a way much better, because this time last week, Cody Rhodes was the top star in WWE, no question, but how he is now is a completely different level. It's almost got a different stratosphere. It's to the point now that people are desperate to see this guy succeed. Like I said, 6 of the top 10 t-shirts on WWE Shop is Cody Rhodes all sold at this particular time. And it just feels that, if you are trying to recreate a Daniel Bryan story, it's different to Daniel Bryan, because Bryan didn't win the Rumble in 2014. He wasn't even in it, to be fair. He wasn't a top merch seller at that time. He was someone that just the fans had latched onto, but Cody is a top guy. Daniel Bryan was losing matches. He was due to take on Sheamus at that WrestleMania at 30. Instead, he got pushed to the moon, then to go through Triple H, and then Batista and Randy Orton that main event. But when you look at Cody Rhodes, he's winning matches. He doesn't lose matches. It's the only time he loses them is when it seems to be, I suppose, one with Brock Lesnar. But I mean, other than that, it was Roman Reigns. The rest of the time, he's seemingly coming through and being portrayed as the top star in WWE. As for The Rock, I mean, we mentioned this, with The Rock. He's one of those guys that he's able to reinvent himself. This isn't the first dance where Rock has had people chant that Rocky sucks. Rock had Die Rocky Die in the mid 97 era before he went heel, because people didn't like the babyface Rock at that time, or Rocky Maivia, if you will. He changed himself, went to the Nation of Domination, was a heel, got himself over to the point that he was the Rock in the Attitude Era that everybody loved before he was chanting Rudy Poo and all the other stuff he was doing. If you smell SmackDown Hotel, you name it, that's what The Rock was doing. And then he got to a point where it got to the early sort of 2002s with Hogan coming back, flipped the script. Everyone kind of was souring on that Rock because they'd seen that Rock for about 3 or 4 years. Hollywood Rock kicked into 2003. And again, you want to hate him, but you end up loving him, and that's the thing with The Rock. This is meant to be business for The Rock. If I can't remember the source for this one, so I do apologize, but I have read it. Apparently, The Rock is not interested on whether he's cheered or booed in this scenario. It's a case of, is it going to do box office? And that's the big question really comes to it, is because The Rock is box office. The Rock is someone that, has been a Hollywood movie star, is going to bring casual eyes in. Why would WWE not want to do this move in one way? Now, I hope that if people are strictly on WeWantCody, allow me to finish the story, because this story's got quite a few chapters. If you've seen my short earlier, you already know the answer. But still, this is where we can talk about in depth and we can understand of how we can get from A to B. But The Rock is someone that match does need to happen at WrestleMania. And to be fair, everyone was expecting a last year's WrestleMania. No one would have crapped on it if it happened a year ago. No one would have crapped on it if it happened 2 years ago because everyone wanted it to happen. Imagine the idea as well that, like, Steve Austin came in a couple of years ago and he main evented the WrestleMania, took someone else's spot in that main event spot. Obviously, wasn't taking a championship opportunity away, wasn't a 2 year story that was building towards it. I sympathize with that. But there were different variables that go for this where you kind of feel like, in one way, I feel a bit maybe The Rock was unfairly treated. However, there are some reports out there suggesting that The Rock is not only just suggesting he should have the match, that he should win the match. That would be a big mistake, in my opinion.
Rock winning is probably the biggest mistake. Like, we had this discussion, and like our brains are obviously very similar in the way we think with certain things. Like, we both have turned around and said that Rock versus Roman actually needs to happen before Cody versus Roman. Because if you have Rock versus Roman first and Roman wins, you're putting Roman on an even bigger pedestal. Whereas if you do Cody versus Roman first and Cody wins, the hype isn't as much there for Rock versus Roman because someone's already beaten Roman. Someone's already taken the titles off of him. And the story, to be fair, with Rock and Roman is nothing actually to do with the title. It's all about being head of the table and who runs that family. I know, like, people are saying titles aside, you don't even have to have the titles involved in it, but it's never been about that. Rock's never once mentioned that title. It's always been about who sits at the head of that table. And like I said, if you have Roman beating Rock first, Roman's pedestal just gets even higher. So then when Cody does eventually beat him for that championship, it makes Cody look like an even bigger star because obviously Roman has beaten. What was the thing I saw the other day? Who won the 2004 Rumble? Just off the top of your head, do you know?
The guy who should not be named, Chris Benoit.
Right. So what was it? That's it. Roman has beaten every single Royal Rumble winner since in the last 24 years, apparently. Apart from 2004, obviously, for that reason. So aside from The Rock, he's beaten every other Rumble winner. In any match at some point, he's beaten them. And like, it's just all you're doing is just you're trying to build this platform. You're trying to make this spectacle as big as possible. And for me, having Cody versus Roman first just doesn't make sense. It just, from a booking wise, you need to have Roman Rock first. You need to put Roman on that bigger pedestal. And yeah, it's like I said, it's one of them things where, like, don't get me wrong, like you were saying a minute ago, a couple of months ago, everyone was kind of like, yeah, it's going to be Cody versus Roman now at Mania. Cody's going to win. We can all see it coming. But now the doubt's there. Everyone's all like, no, wait, you can't take that away from me. I was already having that match. Why are you now taking this away from me? And it's kind of like, do you know what I mean? Everyone was just content with Roman versus Cody a few months ago. But now the fact that the match might not even be on, everyone's just like completely outraged. And like I said, this is where I come back to that original statement. This is either the best bit of booking ever or the dumbest bit of booking. But at this present moment, Cody Rhodes has never been as big a star as what he is as a babyface right now. And this is all because they've taken that main event away from him. And yeah, maybe you do like have to do the whole story that everything had, like, this is even what Cody says. Everything has to be taken away from Roman. If Rock wins and takes the place as the head of the table, kind of makes sense. I don't think he should, but do you know what I mean? This is just, again, part of the story that they have to decide on when they get there. Is like, but for me, just have have Roman win. Put him on this pedestal. It's just, I mean, this guy has already gone 4 years or however long it is without like losing that title. Just keep going, man. I said, just you're making Roman, like, I know everyone's annoyed that Roman still has this title and he's a part-time champion, but at no point have I been as badly annoyed with Roman not being there as I have with, for instance, Brock Lesnar. Obviously, Brock Lesnar was the only champion, so not having him there was kind of like, what's the point in having these shows? But do you know what I mean? I'm okay with Roman not being there every show. Like, man, it's just it's. Like I said, I'm so content to just sit there and see how this plays out. But I think having Roman versus Rock is just the right move to go.
I can see the argument, and now we're going to go into say what I would love to see. For me personally, I'm going to pull out two comments already because they are where I'm standing. Excuse me, Kyle. We want both. Eric, we want both. This is what I don't understand with X and with a lot of the platforms. Now, if people have written it, fair enough. I've not seen it, but so many people are quick to throw grenades, like you say, every different direction. There were 2 nights on WrestleMania.
Yeah, there is.
Why not do both? Now, everything you just said a minute ago with Rock and Roman, minus obviously Roman has to win. Do a night one. See, main event, a night one. Sorted. The Rock has that pedestal. Cody's waiting on night 2. This is what I think should be happening because for me, everyone then
that's
gets
what may even happen.
This is we don't do the triple threat match because I've seen that suggestion go around a few places on X, and I think that's not the right idea because it doesn't help. It's a very cliche to say the story, but it doesn't help anybody's story. The Rock and Roman Reigns is about head of the table. Cody's not the head of the table. Cody wants to finish his own story, which is to do with his dad Dusty, and to complete a family dynasty, if you want, and actually have a championship that his dad never held and that he's wanted to hold. He wants to have that Hollywood glory and put the workhorse stamp on it. That's what Cody wants to do. He wants to be the showcase champion, but also show the roots of what's, how he is portrayed as a superstar. So let's do that. Cody's story doesn't work with The Rock. You can do a situation where the winner faces Cody on night 2. That could be a scenario that you could do, because then that way, obviously, you have the question, well, will it be Roman? A lot of people will probably want Roman to win for the first time. Please hope Solo spikes The Rock in this match. I can't see if that scenario would actually happen, but it could be a situation where you do that, because then you can play in that story between now and WrestleMania. And in my opinion, I think everybody wins. Some people will still say we want to see one over the other, but you're going to get to see it. So if you get to see it, you should be happy. And I hope the press conference tomorrow is going to be the place where a lot of this stuff happens, because a lot of people get a chance to talk. And I think that's what's going to make this quite fascinating, because Seth is going to have a chance again to say why Cody should go against him. One thing I've not been a fan of is the detriment of both championships, because obviously Seth has tried to bury Roman's championship of never being here. Then Roman's pretty much buried the World Heavyweight Championship and said, I've beaten everybody, and it's just secondary people going for this title. Doesn't mean anything anyway. That stuff doesn't help either championship. So let's put that stuff aside and hope they don't do that. However, I do think The Rock versus Roman will be announced. I think there'll be a situation with Cody. So Cody, you're going with Seth. And I think Cody should have one of those spills where it's like, well, I feel I've been put in a position where at first, when we were talking about this, that this needed to happen, that the Rock needed to have this with Roman Reigns. It's about taking everything away from Roman, and it's not just a championship, it's the head of the table monarchy as well, because once that's taken away, the bloodline thing splits. All these people that have been done wrong over the last few years. You call your Drew McIntyres out, you call your Sami Zayn's out. Those people have been wrongly done, and they've affected them superstars in different ways. I'm myself one of those people who was affected last year. However, I know I can beat Roman. The problem is I've been put in a position where I've been the one that's won the Royal Rumble, but I feel I've had this taken away from me, and I feel I'm forced into a decision. So therefore, I'm going to throw out a different challenge. I don't want The Rock. I don't want Roman. I want that championship, though. So I'm calling out whoever wins. You have that match on night 1. I'm waiting for you on night 2. And that way you set up the pedestal for WrestleMania 40, because then Rock versus Roman's happening night 1. Night 2 is all about Cody Rhodes facing the winner. And of course, between them, you can build promos between everybody, because we all know deep down we want it to be Cody versus Roman. And I think the smart fan would suggest that, and the booking should lean in towards that as well, because I mean, Roman's not there all the time. We know that, but Rock won't be there all the time either. But when they are there, you can split it up to the point that occasionally Rock and Roman are there together to do their bits of what they need to do for their night 1 main event, and Cody can carry the pieces with the other one in the meantime. You could even have a situation if The Rock wants to do another match after this. Do Cody versus The Rock at SummerSlam. Why not? Because to be fair, or Saudi Arabia, wherever they want to do this, because that was the original apparently plan at one point, was Rock versus Roman at Saudi Arabia, but that's now moved to WrestleMania because Rock wants WrestleMania. So there's different ways and means around it, but for me, that's how I want to see it play out. I want to see both. I'm greedy. I don't care. And the thing is, it takes away from someone else getting the main event. It probably should be Rhea versus Becky, or Bayley versus Io should get a main event spot. I feel sorry for the ladies that don't get that, but if you have an opportunity to have The Rock and Roman, they do need to do it. And there's no question right now, Cody's the most over thing over in WWE right now. It would be criminal for him not to have a chance to finish that story. The only thing that would, I think, I'd put as a question to fans, and this is the thing where I put to the chat now, and we will start going through your comments. So apologies for the delay, but we have to have our say on it, and then we can get your say into it as well. But I would be interested to know one of two options now that you have here. There isn't a third option of Cody gets to finish the story. Cody has to wait another year, or Cody gets to attempt it, but doesn't win again, because fans are going to crap all over it if Cody loses 2 years twice. And it gets to the point as well where if Cody loses too many times, you start to question, yes, can Cody do the job, but will fans start to give up on Cody because they'll start thinking, well, who's the next big thing that can come in and do the job, because Cody has let me down twice. It's a storyline narrative thing that you just can't get away from. So your choices are in that scenario, because we know want Cody, want Rock, you can do that as well. But when it comes to one of these two choices, what is it? Is the fact that Cody waits one more year, gets the job done, or he does it and he doesn't get the job done? Let me know in the comments. We'll be pulling all of them up.
The other thing I'm going to suggest as well, for the one where he has to wait one more year, that if we get back around to Rumble season again, he's then going for the trifecta of Rumble wins, to be only the second guy ever to win 3 Rumbles, but the first guy ever to win 3 Rumbles in a row. And yeah, man, like I said, I prefer it your way though. I prefer both nights. I think that's how they have to get themselves out of this bullet. They dodge this bullet again. Like, I'm not being funny. I'd quite happily see Seth go on first, because normally, if the world champion, like the other world champion, is going on first, it normally means they're going to lose. And I'm not being funny. Seth could probably do with losing at Mania. So and the thing is, his main event is always going to be about him and Punk. That, yeah, he's glued on for next year. As long as Punk can stay fit, Cody versus Punk is the main event for next year, on night 1, night 2, whatever. But that's happening next year. But yeah, look, man, it's like I said, I'm much more excited by the way you see it. The fact, the goosebumps I got when you sat there and said that Cody comes out and says, "Oh no, I still want my shot. I just want whoever wins out of you two on night 2." That's why the press conference is going to be really interesting, because it's going to be fun to see if they announce if Roman versus The Rock is on a certain night, or if the match is just happening in general.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do. And you mentioned Seth there. Obviously, we mentioned the idea of Seth versus Punk. That would be a nail for next year. And I think that's good as well for Seth, because he still hasn't had a WrestleMania main event. That match works better as a main event when neither of them have properly had it or billed as a main event. So I like that in the meantime. And for Seth, for me, just to quickly go on that, I want to try and get to the comments and after that. But I think Seth obviously will face Drew, but I think also he will face Sami Zayn. I think it's going to be a triple threat match, because we need to have our WrestleMania triple threat match every decade. And I think the reason for it is that Drew has been calling the shot. He's been sort of around the picture, and he's attacked Seth this past week on Raw again. So it's been going on since Crown Jewel. They need a definitive finish with that. But also we have Drew and Sami Zayn that going on the background. But Sami was sitting in the stands this past Monday, and he was saying about how he feels like the fans, they got behind him and everything like that. He wants to show that it was right to get behind him, that, everything he's done has not gone to waste, because let's be fair, he has faded downwards in the last sort of number of months. So the fact is now that he can sort of build up Sammy that same way again. I think a world title match at WrestleMania to be involved in a triple threat match with these 3 guys, 3 workhorses, by the way, for the Workhorse Championship, I think will be a great way to even open WrestleMania.
And then just my creative juices are flowing once again, Steve.
Give them.
Have Sammy win. He takes the title. Priest cashes in on Raw the following night, so Sammy only gets a 1-day reign. Sammy then goes on to Money in the Bank, wins that, and then seeks his revenge on Priest by cashing in, and that's the whole fucking excuse my French. The whole narrative there is Sammy does exactly the same to what Priest has done to him.
I like that. It's different to what I had in mind. I like that a lot, though. I think that'd be a really good idea. My idea, or thought, say idea, it's not really an idea, but the thought that came out is the heist of the century being heisted. The fact that, Seth has it done to him at WrestleMania. The fact he did the heist of the century with Brock and Roman back at WrestleMania 31. The Damien actually does the same thing to Seth, and Seth is cashed in on at a WrestleMania for the second time there was a cash in at WrestleMania, and Damien Priest walks away with the championship. But and then Drew can do it again.
My only thing is I don't think Priest wins if he cashes in at Mania. I don't think they do that to Seth. But that's just me.
We'll have to wait and see. Let's get into some comments, because I feel like that you've all been very patient. I've seen that the numbers have been kind of consistent. It looks like everyone's sticking around. So thank you all for sticking around. If you are enjoying the video, please consider hitting that like button. We really do appreciate it. How about we sort of say now for the next 45 minutes or so, we just go through the chat and see what you've all got to say, and we'll take it from there. I think that seems to be the good way to go. Let's start with Pierre. He says, before we start, well, apologies, we have started, but before we go any further, he said that just want to say thank you to the people who were at NXT last night in the Performance Center and did Ava Chants to Ava, The Rock's daughter. Absolutely. It was good to see, and Ava Rain deserves nothing but respect, support, and love. Agree with those sentiments wholeheartedly. So love that indeed there. Marcel said, what I would do is announce Rock versus Roman night 1, and on night 2, Roman versus Cody is the best way to make fans all happy. So it looks like Marcel is agreeing with the suggestions there of 2 nights for WrestleMania.
I think they have to tease it, though. They have to build it. They have to, if they're going to, that's what they're going to do. They have to build. They can't just do like the whole Bailey choosing EO thing, where instead of building to it, they've just done it within the space of a week. It has to be built like that. They have to put in people's minds that in no way ever that they're going to do Rock versus Cody versus the winner on night 2. Like, we have to completely forget about it. In fact, do you know what they should do? Give Cody another match at Mania, just to make us think that it's not going to happen completely. Do you know what I mean? Just go make fans hate the idea that Cody isn't going to be facing Roman. That massive thing. I reckon you should do that.
Do you know why that really works as well? Because there are other WrestleManias where other wrestlers have competed more than once on the same night. Bret Hart is one of them. WrestleMania 10, he wrestled Owen Hart, his brother, in the opener, lost, and then he won in the main event, winning the championship from Yokozuna, who had wrestled Lex Luger earlier in the evening. So it makes it fair all the way around. And if Cody's going to have the adversity of a story, to get his match on night 2, he has to go for a match on night 1. How much more of a great story? Say he had to face Solo Sikoa. Let's just throw a name out, and he picks up a form of an injury in that night 1. He doesn't go into night 2 at 100%, which just adds another bit of narrative on the layers for him.
Have him in the World Championship match with Drew and Drew and Seth and Sammy, for example. Because in that way, he chooses it. But do you know what I mean? Whatever, just make him do that. Make people think that's what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
X has been a dumpster fire for the last week or so. I'm worried how it's going to get further if we leave it too much on. But I agree with you. The idea of the suspense, just that little bit more, and just the fact that, as I suggested, the idea Cody should fight for it on the press conference, really throw it out there so fans are like really crying for it, want it, and it leaves something open.
He should drop a pipe bomb at the press conference.
Exactly. Because how can you be more like CM Punk? And he said he's very like CM Punk. Drop a pipe bomb. That's the way to do it. Absolutely, indeed. Eric wants to see Bailey Mania. I think you could be in luck, Eric. I think Bailey Mania could be happening here. I think she could be winning the championship for me or Sky come WrestleMania 40.
Yeah, most likely. I just wasn't a fan of the fact that they did no build to the point that, like, just the fact that I like the fact that they're doing it, but the fact that it's been done within a week of her winning the Rumble, and it's kind of like, oh, well, there's 2 factors. 1, Rhea bullied her into not picking Rhea, and then 2, she learned Japanese and realized that they were cussing her out behind her back. And I'm kind of like, I wanted a bit more substance to that there, but I'm cool with it. And like, Bailey probably will win at Mania.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. My thought is I've got no problem with the execution, the way it was done. I just felt it was a little rushed. I'd have liked
Yeah,
to seen another couple of because it felt like they were back on side with one another. Even though Bailey kind of was still always the odd one out, there wasn't so much dissension that we thought there was. And I'd like to have seen more dissension played out as well. The fact that Oscar and Kyrie were eliminated from the Rumble, where was Bailey to help them? They could have built that
yeah.
up just a little bit more. But hey, take that away. It still was executed well, even though I agree with you. I think it was a bit rushed, but I liked a little bit more substance in there. But at the same time, I'm glad we know the direction of where it's going. Raw knows what they're doing. That's why they're building that Elimination Chamber matchup with the qualifiers this week. Obviously, SmackDown will get their share as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it's all going to play out. But Eric, we still think you're going to get your way. We do believe that Bailey, it will be a Bailey Mania. PS says, I say put Cody in a match and make it a triple threat. So there we go. There is a shout for a triple threat match, even if we disagree with it. I think that certainly it's nice to have that opinion. So Pierre, thank you for sharing it with us and saying that it's like a yes movement 2.0. Perhaps a woe movement for Cody could be where they're going with it. Pierre's got quite a lot of comments in, so I'm just going to mix up a little bit. Kicking it with Leo in house, thank you for joining with us. It says that I think we get Rock and Roman on night 1, but not for the championship, for the title being the tribal chief, and it's Roman Cody night 2 for the championship. So basically the idea that Rock and Roman isn't for the title. Do you reckon it works that way? Because I mean, the thing is, I love the suggestion really, because I think the match is more feels unpredictable for me if there is no championship on the line, because then you can even have a factor where, well, Cody could get even involved in it, and the fact is that Roman loses and then goes into night 2 with no momentum. I don't know. Does it work better for you that there's no title, or do you feel if the Rocky is going to make the challenge, it has to be for the championship?
I think if the title's involved, it makes it, for me, it makes it a little bit more predictable that Roman will win. And I think that it's never been about the title as well. Like I said a minute ago, it's all about the head of the table, because at no point Rock's ever even talked about the title. All it's ever been about is head of the table.
Absolutely, that's what it comes down to, is being head of the table. And for me, I prefer it without title. However, I do think the title will be in play. But Leo does say we could get a triple threat, because I feel like this could be WrestleMania 30 all over again. And that's the thing as well. Like, I mean, obviously fans are good to voice their displeasure and stuff like that, and what they want. But we do get to a point as well where I wouldn't want WWE to fold and bend over every time, because not every person people get behind is right. You know, like there are people that we cheer for, and all of a sudden you realize 2 or 3 months later, yeah, it's not the same as what it was. So, I mean, with Cody is different. It's been a 2-year story, so I can understand, but I wouldn't want them to bend over every sort of occasion that happens.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a fan of this triple threat idea. Sorry, I zoned out for a second there, because I was just sitting there thinking, like, the caliber of stars that you've got in this match is just, and there's no disrespect to Randy and Batista, but like Rock and Roman are just levels above. And like I said a minute ago, it's not about the title. So having a triple threat just kind of, it almost defeats the point. Like, what, you're going to put Cody in there to what? Is Rock the guy that's in there to take the pinfall? Do you know what I mean? I don't like the sound of it, and I think it's a very, I find it would be a very awkward situation going forward, like after Mania.
It could be. The thing is, for me, this is why I don't like it. I can try and explain it a bit better, because I said in my short earlier that it's like it just doesn't fit the narrative, in my opinion. And in my opinion, the reason it doesn't fit the narrative is because of the head of the table marquee that needs to be for Rock and Roman. Doesn't involve Cody. Cody's not looking for a Cody of the head of the table spot. But if Roman is to lose to Cody Rhodes, that needs to be in the singles match. That cannot be a triple threat match, because all of a sudden you've got an asterisk against the name of the person that defeated Roman Reigns after he's held the title for so long. I mean, we're talking like on the verge now, 3.5 years. It's to a point now that Cody, if he's going to do it and going to win it, needs to be one-on-one. So that's why I don't agree with the idea of the triple threat match, and that's why I want to see, as Leo suggested before there, the idea of having 2 matches on 2 nights there, and like we've suggested as well. So that's something I would prefer. I'm not a fan of the triple threat idea either. I think it can be used in other areas of the WrestleMania card if needed. And we'll move on to Ray's comment. Then it says, what is your view of Scott D'Amore getting fired from TNA? He was very disappointed and liked Scott D'Amore in TNA. I am going to answer this first, as I know NXSteve not really a big follower when it comes to the TNA market. I'm really disappointed by this. From what I've seen and read, I want to give a shout out to Mike, who watches a lot of these videos. He's tagged me in a lot of stuff that's been going on this evening of the breaking news going on with TNA. And I've got to say that first off, to see that he had been fired, you sort of think to yourself, well, why? We don't know why. So there is a thing of like what made that happen. Someone else has taken a position. The name escapes my mind at the moment, which not the most professional thing. Apologies for that. But Scott D'Amore, obviously, for me though, I look at the last sort of 5-6 years, and he's someone that took TNA or Impact Wrestling from pretty much bottom of the barrel, no one watching it, everyone pointing and laughing, to a company that still people do that, but the people that do that are the ones not watching it. Everyone that's given the time for TNA or watched Impact Wrestling over the last few years have seen some incredible talent emerge from that place. And I just look at it and say to myself that Scott D'Amore is a big reason for that, and the big reason why TNA is back, why the buzz is back, why there are good relationships with AAA is there now, why we're getting people from other companies, why we're having the WWE relationship potentially could have been something that could have been done with Scott D'Amore. Maybe it's not. I know Endeavor is to do with both, and maybe that could be a part of the piece here. I'm not sure what the reasoning for it is. All I will say is with the PW Insider report suggesting that talent were told that he stepped down rather than was fired, which of course he was fired. He didn't walk away from the role. Is a bad move to do with your talent. Is a bad move to do with your fan base. And for me, I think that TNA was getting itself on a good footing. It's just a shame that the company's been TNA for what seems less than a month, and all of a sudden there's some bad press going against those 3 letters already. And it's a shame because this company now was really pushing on the up, finally decided to go with the 3 letters that made its name to begin with, and already we're talking about something negative before we've even got to the second pay-per-view. Politely, I think it's a bit disgusting. I'm a big fan of Scott D'Amore. I was with the work he's done. If he's done something that's deserved termination, I'll change my perspective and view on it. But until then, I'm very disappointed, just like you, Ray. NXSteve, do you have any thoughts with it?
I mean, from what I know and what I've seen, is that guy pretty much bleeds red, white, and blue for TNA. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you cut him open, he bleeds TNA, and he's just been that guy consistently for, do you know what I mean, so many years. Like when he was part of Team Canada and all that kind of stuff, and when he was an on-screen authority figure, and yeah, it's very shocking. And it's like the only thing I can think of is like there's probably like powers above that are in charge that I don't know. Like I don't even know. Like I said, it's without any more substance to it. It's hard to really make an assessment on it because I don't really want to sit there and critique it in case it's something that he should have been fired for. But then again, I don't want to say the opposite. Do you know what I mean? It's just a shame, like I said, because the guy obviously was TNA through and through, and like, I mean, from a neutral perspective, hopefully, like we see him pop up again somewhere else. Maybe like, I don't know, he goes to AEW and maybe he does something with ROH. You know what I mean? And he becomes ROH producer, and like he helps that brand develop, and like we see him back in wrestling in some form or another. But yeah, it's just like you said, after less than a month back as TNA, they had the AAA agreement and deal from what everyone believed they have a working relationship with WWE. That could have been massive going forward for TNA, and it kind of like if you're every other company now that works with TNA, you're kind of like, well, Scott D'Amore was part of the reason that we got into business with them. And yeah, like I said, I'm sitting there thinking from just watching the Rumble like a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, and it's kind of like sitting there watching the Jordan Grace interviews, and she talks about how Scott D'Amore rang her up and was like, "Oh yeah, do you want to be in the Rumble?" And it's kind of like, I don't think that stuff happens without Scott D'Amore. Do you know? Like I don't know who this new guy is. I presume he's some form of the parent company, but like we've seen it before where wrestling companies get taken over by people who have no clue about the wrestling business, and it really is kind of like the major downfall for these businesses. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with TNA within the next calendar year.
I mean, TNA has suffered massively from mismanagement over the years, so that certainly plays a part into it as well there. But yeah, I mean, just trying to find the name of the person, unfortunately, but I can't find it on a quick glance, unfortunately. But what I'll say is, hopefully, Scott D'Amore will land on his feet. Hopefully, if there does turn to be a reason where he should have been terminated, we'll retract what we've just said there, a lot of it. But Scott D'Amore is a big part of TNA, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in WWE personally. When you look with the likes of Jeremy Borash and P.T. Williams and Abyss all being a part of WWE's backstage and producer roles and stuff like that, there could be a home and a place there for him, I'm pretty sure. But we'll move on to what could be a controversial subject. We won't probably spend too long on it, but reports saying 2K are going to remove Brock Lesnar from WWE 2K24. What will happen if there is any Brock Lesnar matches in the showcase mode? They won't replace the matches, so will there be less matches? Obviously, I do agree with Zane's comment. It's kind of too late to build new stuff together. You engine a game, you get it together. It takes time to put everything together. It gets to a point that if you do have to take someone out of the game, it certainly has been taken off of the cover of this point. Apparently, the 40s of WrestleMania edition, his face has been replaced by John Cena now, so Brock Lesnar isn't going to be in that. He could still potentially be in the game in some format. If not, I imagine there will probably be just less matches.
More than likely, there'll be a day one patch. So the second you install that game on your console and you're connected to the internet, there's probably going to be an update for it that's going to, because apparently they're removing Vince as well. So I imagine that you're going to install it and it's going to remove it from the game.
It could quite likely happen. And obviously, if it was going to be Brock in the WrestleMania mode, you imagine it would have been the streak that would have been there. So that's probably the match that you probably would not be playing going forward. But Brock has been involved in some big WrestleMania moments and matches. Richard, it's been a while since you've had a spoiler from you. Thank you for coming in here, giving his prediction and suggesting a steel cage match for Cody and Roman at WrestleMania. Roger says here it's bad for The Rock's daughter. Got death threats from fans. It's not The Rock's daughter's fault. No, it's not her fault at all. Some fans, unfortunately, are just simply disgusting. That's the best way to put it, unfortunately. But to those, if any of them ever do watch, do better. That's what we'll say.
People need to be more tranquilo.
Absolutely, indeed. There, we've got the beautiful bearded bastards in the house. There, the Triple B, better than MJF's Triple B. Let's be fair. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking out the stream. And we've also got my boy James Steele in the house as well. Does Priest have to cash in Money in the Bank before the next Money in the Bank? My understanding, because it's never happened before, and that's what makes this a lot of fun. Yes, I think he does.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it has to be before the next men's Money in the Bank match. Like I said, it's never been done before. So, like, obviously, it doesn't run on the same calendar date every year. So, there's probably an asterisk in there somewhere to do with it.
Potentially, although this year I do think that it's a few days later, so I think it's roughly about a week, 53 weeks. So I reckon they'll probably just make you pretend that the year hasn't passed and he's got to a few days to the Money in the Bank show. If they did wait that long, that would be a fun storyline. We've talked about on the channel a few times before, the idea of you're the one that's got all the opportunities in the world to go and cash in whenever you want, but then when it gets like 3 or 4 weeks left, every champion kind of knows that you have to cash it in. So all of a sudden, the hunter almost becomes the hunted. That wasn't waiting for you to do it. But for me, it just doesn't fit Priest's character. It fits more on a cocky, cowardly kind of heel. I always think like a Miz would be perfect for that on his heel days. But the first name that comes in. But I just feel now Chelsea Green would be amazing for that spot.
Dude, do you know what they should do? Is they should have the contract expire on the night of Money in the Bank, have Priest cash in at Money in the Bank, and then have the winner of the Money in the Bank that night cash in on Priest.
Hey, why not? Why not? I'd be down for that. I'd be 2 cash-ins on one night. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? That would be first time ever. Apparently, Eric has said, so I'll say allegedly because I haven't seen it. So, but if it is fantastic, all charges against Liv have been dropped. Apparently, we've got here. Absolutely. Richard suggesting not just the triple threat with Cody, Roman, and Rock, but also Austin Theory being added there. I'm not sure about that one there, Richard, there, just to throw that out there. James is saying us again, don't forget Cody said he wants to take everything. Could he be a unified world universal champion? There is the possibility that could happen, but again, it's not something I want to see happen because although Cody did put eyes emoji to one fan that did suggest this on X, so he would be open to it. And if you did do Cody versus Seth, and you find a way to unify everything together, this match could actually happen. My only fear is that then Roman, if he was to win the match, has every world title again. So that's my against it, because we've had to bring a title in that would go less than a year and would be taken away again because it was unified with the WWE Championship and probably put on Roman's collection. So I personally don't want to see it, but it's something that potentially could happen.
It could do. I would very much doubt that would happen, because it would absolutely poop over the history of whatever title Seth Rollins is carrying right now. But I think that Cody's going to bring back the old winged eagle. I think, like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the Broken Skull interview with Cody, and he famously talks about that title, the winged eagle, and it's kind of like I reckon he'd bring back a newer version of that. Like, just like, it'd almost be like a Cody title, do you know what I mean? And I'd be well up for that. But yeah, I can't see them doing every title on the line, because it just, again, it kind of, like you said, it just kind of undervalues what the world title currently means. Do you know what I mean? And then, like you said, on the off chance that Roman doesn't win again, what's the point? What was the point in having a brand new title for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months just for Roman to take it again? That's pretty stupid. But yeah, the Liv Morgan thing, PW Insider stated yesterday that all the charges were dropped.
Fantastic for Liv Morgan there, but we won't rule it out, James. It could be a possibility, but I suppose everything, again, it's another table reference. Until taken off, everything is on the table here. And obviously, Roman's at the head of it currently. We'll see what goes on after the press conference tomorrow. Tino's time in the house before he goes live. Wanted to drop in and say hi. So, hi, Tina. Hope you're doing well. And he says, we want Cody night 1 and we want Rock night 2. So, it feels like both is starting to kicking around, which is nice to see. Numako with a great question here. Who will Bianca face at WrestleMania 40? Now, my suggestion around Royal Rumble time was Jade Cargill, but she's not signed to either brand as of yet. So, what do you see for Bianca Belair for WrestleMania 40 at this moment? Because it feels like she's a bit directionless.
Yeah, it's almost kind of shocking, to be fair. I mean, it kind of seems like they should be doing Jade versus Bianca just to give them something to do. I mean, I can't imagine that Jade's not going to go to SmackDown. Yeah, this is the problem that they have all the time. We're having such stacked rosters and stacked talent. Hey, why not stick them together in a tag team and have them in a fatal 10-way for the women's tag team titles? You know what I mean? Because there's so many women on there. Just do an absolute barn burner of a match and just have 10 tag teams all in at once.
I wouldn't be surprised. There was a bit of a graphic going around of Bianca and Jade is actually a team for those titles. I wouldn't be against the idea, I suppose, in a way, because it protects Jade at the start coming in as well, if she's going to be a big deal. Bianca is one of the faces of the division, so I can see why they would do that as a credible team to go against the Kabuki Warriors or multiple teams, as you suggested there. So we'll wait and see on it, really. But I mean, one thing I would say is that I think that Bianca will be in the Elimination Chamber. And I mean, it looks like we're building to Rhea versus Becky, but they did tease a year ago about doing Bianca versus Rhea at a WrestleMania. There is a door open to do it, or a pod potentially to make it happen, but time will tell at this particular moment. Thanks for joining us, Tino. Just say Tino said that I'll be on his retro series this month. That is the case for WrestleMania 8. So Tino's time, you can subscribe to his channel. We'll be doing a watch along. That's the first show I ever watched. So it's good to go back and relive some of the memories with Tino on his channel later this month. Becky Olive for the Chamber says, Eric, I think Becky at this particular moment, but both look like they definitely qualify.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with both of them. I think the more important question is do they win at Mania, or does Rhea retain?
Big question. At the moment, if I had to predict, I'd have Rhea retaining.
That's what I'd be thinking at the minute, especially like with the fact that Chamber's coming up, and if she doesn't main event against Nia, it's just going to be so stupid. But yeah, she's been so dominant. It's a case of maybe there's some sort of underlying story with the fallout of the Judgment Day is the reason why she might lose it at Mania. But she's been booked so strong, I can't really see her losing at the minute.
Yeah, I can't see her either, to be fair. I have a feeling that it will main event, by the way, Elimination Chamber. I think Becky or the Chamber, I think, will open it. I think Becky wins it. I think we have the stare down to close the show. Rhea hold up the championship. And I think it just makes it feel a big time deal for WrestleMania with those two in Australia as well, just with the championship being held up high at the end there. It could be quite fun.
The only reason why I don't think we get that stare down is because that crowd is going to be a hostile crowd towards Becky, because obviously it's Rhea. It's the only reason why I don't think we'd get it.
It could be a potential. The only thing is, though, Becky's got some broad shoulders. She's done some ballsy action, so I wouldn't be surprised. But wait and see. Bounty Keith in the house, Scott D'Amore. There's some praying emojis. So yeah, we hope the best for Scott D'Amore. We've got Nick here says we want Cody to go back to Hollywood Rock. Okay.
NWO Rock, did you say?
Leo says, I think we could see Cody win at Chamber. Cody's story is winning the championship. He never said he wants it to happen. I never said where he wants it to happen. Sorry. I see Cody winning with the help of The Rock. We can get Rock versus Roman at Mania. Obviously, Roman is not currently advertised for the Elimination Chamber, but that doesn't mean things can't change. Is there a chance?
Roman is not losing that title on a B-list pay-per-view on the other side of the world, because Chambers on at like 1 a.m. for the States. Ain't no way Rock's gonna lose. Ain't no way Roman's gonna lose it for starters on a B-list pay-per-view because of the significance of the reign, and there's no way they do it in another country as well, because just for the pure fact that it's a very rare spectacle that we see the world title change hands outside of the US.
Yeah, it is very rare that it does happen. So I do agree with you on that. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like I said, the press conference is going to tell us everything tomorrow. Once that goes out, that will be a time where we can turn around and say, right, this is. We should have a clearer indication of what's going to WrestleMania. But I'd imagine if something's going to happen at the Chamber, that will be announced tomorrow as well. If
Leo's still watching. Yeah, just if Leo's still watching, obviously with this booking here, who would you then have Cody face at Mania? Because you've obviously got Rock and Roman. You've not actually. Oh, there you go. Cody faces AJ at Mania for the championship. He was reign, but there's no build to that. That's what I mean. You're going to go in 6 weeks before, and you're going to have AJ versus Cody. I think Drew probably makes more sense than having AJ. Like, there'd be no substance to the story with that one.
At the moment, with the way that Raw went off the air, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Drew versus Cody at the Chamber. That's the direction I had to guess at this moment, but it's all guesswork, isn't it? That's what we're here for. We're here to speculate. Leo continues on saying that Liv winning the Chamber, her recent promos, it seems like that's the case, or we could be getting a heel turn. Imagine she loses, and after Rhea wins, Liv attacks her with a chair. Instant heel heat for Liv. It could be interesting. Like I said, I've given my prediction already. I think Becky's winning the Chamber. I think Liv, they are going to take it slow and steady with Liv. She's just been out on the shelf for the best part of 12 months. She was out for not long after WrestleMania till near SummerSlam. She came back for like a month. She got injured. It was the same injury. It was worse again. She's not really jumped into the deep end here. She wasn't in the Rumble for the longest time, but she made the return. She's barely been on Raw since. She's got a match next week on Raw, and she will be in the Chamber. I think it's a slow and steady return. So this is just me predicting. I can be wrong. I can be very wrong. I have a feeling the Backlash could be the place for Liv Morgan to get the chance against Rhea Ripley, and I think that could be the destination. If Rhea retains over Becky Lynch, you could do then that match after WrestleMania, because at that point, Liv would have been back for like nearly 4 months. I think then it's okay to throw in the deep end and perhaps trust her to not fall in the big program.
Yeah, and I think as well, don't we get close to draft period with that time as well? So obviously, because at that point, God, Rhea's been through the entire women's roster on Raw and beating everyone, and you would definitely need to freshen it up, because we would need to see, I don't know, Bianca or Charlotte or someone come over to Raw just to be someone fresh for Rhea, or someone credible enough to take that title for Rhea.
Absolutely. We've got Kervin in house. Kervin, thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Says, do you think this is a work? All going back then with what we spoke about with hashtag WeWantCody, WeWantRock. We believe it's a work. We believe there's too much strategic planning that's gone into this. And here's the thing that makes me really think that it's a work. They're so open and talking about it on commentary. They never used to do it. It's something that happened that they didn't want you to talk about. For example, when CM Punk left, they didn't want you to know about that. They didn't want you to know about anything that was, with any superstar. If it was against their policies, they would drown out the boos. They would pipe in the cheers. They've always done this with this, but here they've let it run, and it feels to me like they've got a reaction that they kind of wanted. It's almost like, let's just see what happens with this. I don't think they got the reaction they wanted with The Rock, but I think they got what they wanted with Cody.
Yeah, and that probably explains why they drowned out the Rocky, like the Rocky booze or whatever it was that they was playing through Raw on Monday night. But yeah, like I think it's a work. I think my fingers are crossed that it is a tactical plan, like a tactical genius booking, and like someone out there turned around and said, "Why don't we just not make Cody have the match? Why don't we just like absolutely just not do it and just see what the reaction is?" Like it's going to be interesting when we like in a year's time or however many years down the line, where someone comes out and turns around and says, "This is what actually happened," and we find out the real truth about how this all went down.
Absolutely, and that's going to be fascinating to see how it's going to go along. Because
Plus, as well,
go on.
Just the other thing as well is, man, this is a great way to take the story away from what else has gone on recently in WWE.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that quickly because that is a possibility as well. Obviously, no one's talking about that other topic anymore. Obviously, we've mentioned Vince's name just because of the fact of him being removed from a video game, but that was all over everywhere. It's not being talked about now. I'm not putting two together and putting necessarily saying it's 4. It could be 5, but at the same time, it's a possibility. It's a possibility.
I would hate for that to be the reason why they've done this. Put it that way.
Same. Coven says difficult though to believe that The Rock would want to wrestle. I think he would like to do the one match with Roman. I think it was just always a place of how to make it happen. But we'll see.
If you never saw Young Rock, man, then he teased it in his TV show that it was a match that could only be seen on the Great Spectacle and Sports Entertainment.
So some have suggested that maybe the whole thing's a swerve and that The Rock basically is going to go into this press conference and basically he's going to be someone that's just going to be backing Cody. The idea that actually Cody will still get the shot, but Rock's just going to be like the enforcer, kind of almost like I suppose a Mike Tyson role, but just for the babyface, just to counteract the bloodline. Does that work for you at all? I mean, we've said we don't believe that's the case, but could that be something that you would get on board with, I suppose?
No, see, this is why I wanted it to be another year before Cody goes on to win that title, because I fantasy books in my spare time that I don't have. I've like my brain just wanders, and I fantasy booked getting rid of Solo and like the idea was that you have Jacob Fatu coming because obviously he's just recently been released from MLW. He then becomes a part of the bloodline. Jimmy does what Jimmy's been doing famously recently, and he's been messing up. And he's been getting things wrong, and he's been losing matches. This then causes him to be kicked out of the bloodline. And who saves him? His brother Jay. The Usos are then reunited back together as a tag team. They then take on Solo and Jacob in a Uso penitentiary match, which is essentially a lumberjack match with guys in orange like overalls and all that kind of stuff. Make it feel like a proper like Usos penitentiary match. And at the end of the match, the losers, who would be Jacob and Solo, they get arrested, thrown in the back of a police van and taken away. That way, Cody and Roman have a clean match without zero interference.
Interesting. Getting a bit more of the fantasy. You need to get more of this fantasy booking stuff in here. You don't do that enough.
I have a lot of time on my head when I'm traveling home from work.
There you go. We could have it like live streamed from the highway.
Yeah, listen, my brain just goes on these little tangents, and I'm like, have an Usos penitentiary match. I don't think we've ever had one before. So, like, do you know what I mean? It just makes sense having the Usos reunited, and that was their whole thing. And it was kind of like, yeah, just do that, man. Have them get arrested and taken away, and then that way Rock has to have a clean match because no one can interfere.
Interesting stuff indeed there. Temple believes that WWE are trolling indeed, believes it will be Rock Night 1 and Cody Night 2.
I hope so.
Pierre not a fan of the unification match, by the way, with the 2 championships that they did at WrestleMania 38 was created to have a champion there every week. So it made no sense to have another championship unification match. It's something that has been mentioned, so I don't blame the question for coming in. It's just obviously, like you say, especially if Roman was to win, it's not something I want to see happen. But if Cody was to win it, I mean, Cody could be someone that would fly the flag for both shows and would make it work.
Yeah, but then the title would end up with something stupid like the super ultra mega super heavyweight championship of the world kind of thing, and like Do you know what I mean? It would glow and like it would have superpowers and stuff. Like at what point you just be like, this is silly now. Just constantly unifying titles. It's like you might as well just have Gunther lose the IC title at this point. Just everyone fight for one title was essentially the point I'd be getting to with that.
Fair enough there. Kervin's got some great suggestions here. Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton. I'd love to see that match. And Jay Cargill versus Nia Jax after the Rumble spot. You couldn't rule that out.
Very true, yeah. I just hope they do something with Jade. Like the fact that she's on TV now and she's been there for 6 months. Like I really hope that they just did kick on and have her do something. But yeah, I like the idea of Belair versus Tiffany Stratton as well. That'd actually be a pretty banging match.
It would be pretty good. If you smell what the Triple H is cooking with these three guys, love it indeed. There. Don't know why five.
What
guys
did you think about the idea? The idea that they want The Rock to take over from Triple H as head of creative, apparently for WWE.
I mean, I don't. At the moment, the way the wrestling world of bubble seems to go, it gets crazier every year. Just when you think it can't get any crazier, these podcasts that we do, we go like, "Oh, this is the maddest thing," but then something happens. I wouldn't be surprised at this point if anything happens. To be fair, The Rock is there. I would like to think
a Hollywood movie star. At what point is he going to be available to do booking for WWE? Do you know what I mean?
This is why my head feels it won't happen, but
yeah,
maybe it will. Maybe Rock comes away from the movies. Maybe TGO pays him everything he needs and doesn't need to do the movies anymore. And I don't know,
man, because he gets paid a lot of money from movies.
He does.
For as bad as they are, that's a lot of money. Like what? He's the biggest grossing, biggest highest paying star in Hollywood, like for the last 2 years or something, or however long it is. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. There, totally agree. Roger says, "Is there any wrestlers that you don't watch when they are on TV from any company?" So is there anyone you're looking at not watching them?
No, not really. Jack Swagger back in the day was the guy that I was just like, can't bothered with. But no, I think I've sort of grown. To be honest with you, I've mentally grown up a bit and just been like, look, I might not like him as a character, but it's still wrestling at the end of the day, so I'll watch anything, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really turn over for anyone specifically. There will maybe be on occasions where I might not have time to watch a full show, so I make sure I see the meat and the bone of the show. So I might skip through some of the match just to see how the finish is. But that's usually on minor companies. It's not usually when it comes to WWE or AEW or usually TNA if I can help it. So I mean, it usually be from something else. So I mean, like the same as you, I kind of respect that someone's in the ring. If I don't like how they're being presented, that can always change, and someone's there trying to do a job. So there's not really anything on anyone personally when it comes to it.
Yeah.
But what I will say is we are at a stage where I'm going to give us 10 more minutes. So I think we should power through the final comments. How do you reckon?
Go for it.
Let's power through. Eric says here that has the main event chamber, especially with no Roman, no Seth. I imagine Rhea will have that spot. Kervin says, who's going to watch Elimination Chamber starts at 5 a.m.? That's crazy. To be fair, I mean, most pay-per-views finish at 5 a.m. for the UK folk.
Yeah, for me, I think it's 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So do you know what I mean? It's going to be nice to actually get up in the morning and watch wrestling rather than stay up and be really, really tired the next day.
I can sit there with my cereal. It's going to be lovely. Not this fancy pizza stuff that everyone else gets to do the other side of the world. P.S. says, Maxine Dupree, I hate to say this, but it's just not her place. She's a great manager. She's not a wrestler. Sorry, Maxine, but she's only had 8 matches, hasn't she? I mean, she didn't go through NXT and all the rest of it. She's kind of learning on the job each and every week, isn't she?
Yeah, I think with Maxine, I'm more interested in the character at the minute than the wrestling. But like I said, there's been so many people, especially for instance, Lana wasn't Lana's biggest fan, but before Lana was released by WWE, you could see a visual improvement in the ring. And if you give Maxine enough time, I'm sure she'll get to that point as well. But for me, with Maxine, it's more about the character at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, for me at the moment, I think it's not the best in ring work, I would agree. But like you say, I mean, it's only so many matches, so a bit of time, and hopefully it will get to see some improvement. Richard believes Grayson Waller will be the first to enter the Elimination Chamber match in Australia. That doesn't seem like a bad shout, even though it's a prediction, not a spoiler. Michael says, nice. Michael, thank you for saying it's nice. I'm glad you're enjoying the video. Please hit that like button, and good to have you on board. Bobby in house as well. Bobby, hope you're doing well. Your guys' thoughts on Zoe Stark wrestling against Liv Morgan in the Elimination Chamber qualifying match? Yes, it'd be quite quick, unfortunately, Bobby. I think Liv Morgan's taking the dub.
Yeah, it kind of sucks because I like Zoe Stark, and I would have liked Zoe Stark to have had a shot, but yeah, unfortunately, it looks like Zoe Stark's gonna be the one to take the bullet against Liv Morgan.
Looks like indeed, especially as Shayna took the bullet this past week as well for Becky Lynch. Will you be buying the 40 years of WrestleMania edition of WWE 2K24 NXSteve?
No, I'm probably just gonna get the normal edition. The deluxe edition. No, I'm going to avoid that one. With the one with Rhea and Bianca on it, I think it's where it comes with like all the season pass and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, no, I'll just buy the standard one. The game's already £70. That's enough as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends really of the situation at the time, but at the moment, I think I'm more likely to go just to the deluxe edition, not to the 40 years edition, because I think you get the story play with that anyway. Whatever edition you buy, it's just I think you get extra attires of certain people that are in those modes.
The one with Rhea and Bianca on, you get the season pass, you get all the DLCs and stuff included as well for that price. But that's like I said. I'm never sold on the DLC. I'd rather just choose and pick what ones I want because some of them packs are probably gonna be dodgy and there probably have people in it that I really don't want.
There you go. So that's where we stand at the moment, Ray. But feel free to get involved with your which edition you'll be buying. WrestleMania Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes for the championship storyline is legacy teachers versus students. Kevin, I like that idea a lot. That would work quite nicely. But although I don't think that will be happening with the championship at this moment, but I do think that would be great for the summertime. Buy the next WWE draft, move Rhea Ripley to SmackDown, Io Sky to Raw. That could happen.
Depends, guys. You have to move the whole Judgment Day. There's Rhea. There's obviously the whole faction thing you have to take into account. But yeah, Io could move if depending on whether she's champion or not.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Zane here saying, "Would you like to see any former NXT wrestlers go back to NXT gimmick on the main roster?" Okay, so for example. Maybe like Johnny Gargano's group The Way actually be as The Way was in NXT when Johnny was being a heel and sort of goofing around every week. That was quite fun to see. I wouldn't mind seeing that, being a parent to Austin Theory and Indy Hartwell every week.
Yeah, but dude, they're putting on some bangers on tag team matches, and the fact that we're getting DIY versus Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne this week is just incredible. And it's like that's kind of a really hard one to do. Oh my god, that's like if you'd have asked me this a couple of years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, sure, put this person back to this person back. But yeah, there's no one that's really. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that's still in the company that was a call up that needs to go back to their old character because they've either gone back to NXT or they're not in the company anymore. Like that's a really hard question. Whatever happened to Apollo Crews, by the way? Because I haven't seen him in forever either.
He's on Raw. Well, say he's on Raw. He's in catering.
He's in catering.
You can join some good catering on Raw.
Yeah, like I said, I can't think of anyone. Like everyone's transitioned well. I mean, if Bobby Roode was still on the roster, I probably would say Bobby Roode back to his NXT persona, like just no smiling in all seriousness.
Absolutely. Bounty Keith also sharing the sentiments there of the targets towards Ava being ridiculous. Have to agree indeed there. Like we say to anyone that everyone that's here on the chat all feels the same. It's not the type of space that the here, but if should anyone have been doing so, do better. But we know that the viewers of this channel are not of that type. Kicking in with Leo, I did hear that they have big plans for Liv and have her lined up for a big marquee match at Mania. So if it's not Rhea, what's the best thing for her to do? I don't see it being in the tag division. To be honest, I have struggled to find the plans for Liv Morgan currently for WrestleMania personally. If there is a big match in play, if it's not Rhea, which I don't think it will be, I don't quite know.
The only thing I could think of is on the off chance they brought in a mid-card title for the women's, like a women's intercontinental championship. Do you know what I mean? That's the only real thing I could really see them doing because there's so many women, so few titles. So it's really hard to keep a lot of the girls relevant most of the time.
It's having the story there as well to make it work. She'll definitely get on the Mania card. There's no doubt about it. But to be fair, it's not an easy question, Leo. That's the problem with it.
Battle Royal?
To say it's Sounds like a
That's the only
lead
thing.
balloon, doesn't it? You know, it's just not what you want to see. I suppose if she wins, it's not so bad, but you know, it's but there is a lot of wrestlers this year that struggle for spots for wrestling. I don't see where Kevin Owens fits in. I sort
Yeah.
that fits where Randy Orton seems to be with Solo Sikoa, but outside of that, it's not there. AJ Styles, I don't see where he fits in. There's a number of stars right now where I'm like,
I see where Randy fits in.
yeah, Solo is probably the best bet at the minute. So, but yeah, when it comes to Liv, I mean, I don't know. Bianca Belair doesn't seem to have many plans currently for WrestleMania, so that would be a match that we could happily see. But they're on the wrong show. That's the only problem. We've got Castellar Daniel Garcia in house. The rest of Arvo is giving us many solid matches. He is indeed quite a joy to watch every Monday at the moment. And give us Uso versus Gunter ladder match. Gotta say, one of my favorite parts this week was the interaction on the mic between Jey Uso and Gunter. Just the way that Gunter said, "I'm going to make you wish you were back in the days when no one could tell you apart between you and your twin brother." I thought that was a dynamite line. It's just Gunter's got it, man. Gunter has got to be the best sort of European heel I can ever remember watching, because this guy for me just there's no level. Like he sucks you in so perfectly as well. Just when you think, right, okay, that's it, you know, where's he going to go with it? He then switches it. You just think it's a great killer line. For me, Gunther is ready for any division of WWE. He could be the top guy for all I care. I think he's ready for it. Jey Uso for me was who I predicted will be the next Intercontinental Champion. So it's going to be interesting to see when they put this match in place. Although currently, if I had to predict, I think this is where Jimmy costs Jey, and it sets up the WrestleMania match.
And it'll be on Raw. It'll be on Raw as well, just for the fact that obviously I don't think Gunter can still travel, which is the other problem they're having with it. But dude, I'm gonna send you some videos. Remind me. Gunter may not become your favorite person anymore when you see these videos, because back when he was NXT UK champion, he was doing a tour of West Ham's ground, and he didn't say some nice things about West Ham Stadium. But yeah, no, dude, it was fantastic. Even like the way they presented Imperium as well, with the 4 pillars in the ring and everything. I was like, this looks pretty cool. I like this. But yeah, I'm psyched for the match. The match will be great. It's a shame that it's not going to get pay-per-view treatment. But yeah, it'll probably end up being on a Raw or SmackDown, unfortunately. Raw more than likely.
Well, we used to have an Austrian at West Ham, but he wasn't so kind when he left either. So maybe Gunter's taken after him. But if so, do better, Gunter. That's all I can say. But Kingdom Leo says maybe Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair, which I think was already in the comments there. Just didn't see it at the time. But yeah, that would be a fresh match up the sea. So that's certainly an option there. We've got Daniel Garcia. He says, R-Truth is a comedy highlight reel. He's brilliant. We saw a suggestion from Assemble's channel suggesting the idea that R-Truth be the host for WrestleMania. How genius would that be?
Comes out and says, "Welcome to SummerSlam." It's fantastic.
It would be great.
I would love it, man.
It would be great. Paul London and Brian Kendrick were phenomenal. They certainly were indeed. Were a great lineup indeed. Just what Carol says, it starts at 4. He's going to be up for the show. In fact, you did suggest to me that you might actually be involved on a preview show before it goes live. So that's dedication there from Kyle. If that's the case from On the Mark Wrestling Podcast, definitely worth a subscribe. Roger asked, did we like the Husky Harris character in NXT? Yeah, it was fine.
I like the whole idea of the Nexus. I thought it was a great faction idea. Just unfortunately booked poorly, like having them lose to John Cena.
Absolutely.
But I've got no problems with Husky Harris. It's one of the developmental characters.
It just didn't last
long.
Out
right in the end for him.
Yeah, everything worked out very well.
They still haven't announced any Hall of Fame entrance either this year so far.
Not yet. The predictions on the video is on the channel now if anyone wants to see it. I know if you have already gone and checked it out, we've left a few comments, but if you haven't, do that at the end of this stream. We'll be stopping in about a few minutes' time now. We've got Ciampa and Gargano getting more TV time is a great thing. They are doing some better matches and great stuff on there. I just always feel for me it's not connected the same with them on the main roster, unfortunately, but I think that's just because of the presentation. They're having great matches. I want to see the character work we saw with them in NXT next, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are your next tag team champions at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, again, they need to split the tag team titles up, but they're, like I said, they're doing the best thing for them at the minute, which is having killer matches, and the tag team division has been knocking out the park, like just some phenomenal matches. Although I'm not a fan of the whole Brutus Bomb thing, because man, that move is it looks rough to take. And like But the rest of it has just been fantastic. And I'm a tag team wrestling fan, so I'm always going to be like a sucker for great tag team wrestling. But the quality of TV matches has just improved vastly recently over the last couple of weeks. So I'm really excited to see what they do. And like I said, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne versus DIY this Friday, just, man, that sounds killer.
Absolutely, indeed. There. We're on our last few comments then before we wrap things up. Umaga-san is very good in the ring. I do agree with that there. Do we see Indy Hartwell being in the chamber as because she's from Australia? If you've seen my predicted match card for Elimination Chamber, I have her in there.
That's a good shout. I wouldn't even think of it, to be honest, but yeah, it's a good shout.
I think she should be. It's Australia. When's the next time she gets to do that? So I think they have
from
to
Reed
do
will
it.
be in there at some point as well, even though I think he's New Zealand, but he's from that side of the planet. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. Drew now can be a big bad heel in WWE. He's doing a pretty good job of it as well, to be fair, especially with the new T-shirt, which is also in the top 10 of WWE's merch sales this week.
Oh God, it's horrific.
It's horrific, isn't
Dude,
it?
It's the Photoshop editing is bad. Like, it's something like the first time I ever edited a photo. That's what it looks like. It's horrific.
It's so well though. Give Drew a stable with Dijak along with a tag team partner for Dijak. Could be an idea to do, I suppose. There's a lot of factions.
Dijak doesn't leave.
Yeah,
his contract's apparently up in the summer.
Is it really? Well, that might be why he's not winning.
Apparently, it's been reported.
There we go. It explains a lot. Wasn't a fan of the old boxing punch from Joe Gacy this week on NXT. Keegan Lewis is a triple threat match, Rhea, Liv, and Becky at Mania. Certainly a possibility that could fit the narrative quite nicely. Also, Richard, of course, suggesting Zoe Stark should be in that match as well, make it a fatal four-way. We've got Ian Dragunov is relentless. Mini Drago in the ring. He is absolutely relentless indeed. Ray, do not remind me that Man United won 3-0 on the weekend. It wasn't a 3-0 game, though, let's be fair, but let's be honest, you were very comfortable in the second half of that game. There was never a chance that West Ham were getting back into it, even when it was 1-0 down. CD says it will be Judgment Day versus Awesome Truth for the tag team titles at WrestleMania. Certainly feel like that could be a possibility if the titles are not dropped at the Elimination Chamber. But that would actually give a bit of purpose for R-Truth and the storyline they've done with the Judgment Day for the last sort of 8 weeks or so.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I think it would pay. Like, it's been a very entertaining story just to keep Judgment Day preoccupied. For as much as some of it at the start I was very skeptical about, but as the weeks have progressed, I've found it more and more entertaining. And like I said, this week when JD cops one and just falls over and just throws that money in the air, it's fantastic. But yeah, like I said, I would agree with that. That's probably going to be the Mania match, and I could probably see Miz and Truth winning, to be fair, as well.
Absolutely, indeed. That would be quite fun to see, especially at SummerSlam for Truth. Scott Demore, yeah, we've talked about it in a bit of depth already. CD, we're a bit surprised as well to see the news there, and he does say that Scott Demore did make him fall in love with TNA again. Absolutely, it's a bit of a shame, but until more details come out, we may be changing that feeling. But at the moment, it just seems like a very strange decision of why they would do that. To be perfectly honest, PS says Liv Morgan is going to win against Zoe Stark next week, or watch her. We will be indeed. We'll be watching Monday Night Raw. We've got hope in the future. The Mountie goes into the WWE Hall of Fame because the Mountie always gets his man.
Dude, man, I forgot how bad that character gimmick is.
SummerSlam 1991 versus the Boss Man.
Him versus the Boss Man, yeah.
Spending the night in the
jailhouse rock match or something like that, wasn't it?
It was. If anyone has a spare 20 minutes or something after the stream goes off and they don't want to watch more YouTube videos and they want to check on Peacock, just throw SummerSlam 91, Big Boss Man versus the Mountain. Just follow that for the rest of the evening. You'll probably think why, but it's funny for all the wrong reasons. CD said, I never thought The Rock would get booed again. I know, same here as well. I can't even name that team there. Daniel Garcia there. Boisterous behavior. I don't think I've seen them. Can't comment.
Can't say I've heard of them.
No, can't comment on that one. Hoping as well Camille signs with WWE. We'll see if that happens. Camille, I've seen that there could be a play from AEW. I can't remember the source though said that today, but AEW could be actually in the lead with that one. I thought she was destined for NXT. We'll have to wait and see.
I wouldn't have a clue, mate. Like I said, I'm not. I've been so unconnected with social media. Like I didn't find out until we started talking before this that Scott Demore had been fired. So I've been so disconnected from social media today.
Probably not a bad thing, to be fair. Braun at the next main event, he certainly could be a main event player when it comes to WWE. Richard believes that Zoe Stark will beat Liv Morgan because of interference there, or Liv getting disqualified. Richard, we'll have to wait and see next week. It could be a fun one to see indeed. And then last couple of comments there, or last comment we can actually take here from now. Sheamus, a future WWE Hall of Famer, do agree with that indeed. And CD, thank you very much for the very kind words. Richard here saying that Zoe Stark Baszler against Kabuki Warriors will be his shout for WrestleMania. But that's all from us today. Thank you everyone for watching. We do appreciate all of your comments, all of your time as well that you've spent with us here discussing all things WWE, AEW, TNA as well. Just before we go, this is just a bit of a selfish one from me. We mentioned this at the start of the video. Mercedes Mone, AEW debut coming soon. The Boston area is going to be getting to AEW Dynamite and Rampage at the TD Garden. Believe it to be March the 13th, a Wednesday. A hometown coming potentially for Mercedes Mone. It happened for Deonna Purrazzo in New Jersey. NXSteve, do you see it happening for Mercedes Mone?
Possibly, if Tony Khan doesn't tell you beforehand that it's going to happen. It just seems to be all the worst away with AEWs. Tony Khan just likes to tell you that it's going to happen. Dude, man, like I said, if she weren't going back to WWE in the Rumble, it's more than likely she's going to AEW. Dude, I just hope it goes well for her there, just because, let's be honest, the last 2-3 years with the AEW in the women's division's not been as good as it could be with the stacked talent that they have. So, yeah, hopefully it all works out. Hopefully she shows up as a killer. Do you know what I mean? No, I hope she doesn't, actually, because I think it's too predictable. Do something else. Do something crazy. Have it turn up the week before or something. Do you know what I mean? Just to throw people out, or a week later. But do it on pay-per-views or something, man. Give people a reason to watch pay-per-views instead of watching the weekly products. I don't know.
I thought she was going to debut at Revolution, but now I think this is the spot for it. And personally, I think it's actually the right spot, if I'm going to be honest, because Revolution will be in the rearview mirror for a week. Timeless Tony Storm probably retains against Deonna Purrazzo, and I think then it's the way you can bring Mercedes in. I think it certainly could be interesting, but time will tell on that one.
That or she does debut at Revolution, and that's her first scheduled match on AEW is that show.
Absolutely. Last question. It's just a one-word answer or two-word answer, depending how you want to go with. Who's winning tonight, Sting and Darby Allin or Big Bill and Ricky Starks? Who's walking away tag team champions?
Sting and Darby Allin, undefeated in tag team competitions the whole time. They're going to win.
I think they will as well. The only way they don't win is if the Young Bucks cost them. That's the only way it happens. But I think the Young Bucks would be smart about it, let them win the titles, and then they will attempt to win the titles at Revolution. But that's all from us anyway. Thank you to the chat. NXSteve, massive thank you to you as always. It's always great to have you on board for this. We'll next see NXSteve in-house with myself for No Way Out 2009, the retro review. That's the one that you've all voted for. It's been very popular this time around, this show. So we're looking forward to diving into it. We'll be doing that live next Tuesday on the channel. Thanks for watching. In the meantime, check out some other videos on the channel, including Elimination Chamber match card predicted and Hall of Fame predictions. Look after yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time. Peace.